So how are firebrands produced? Let me use an example of the highest intensity fires that we experience in wildlands, and that's the crown fire. And what we're looking at here is a crown fire as it's spreading from right to left, coming up to this point. And what it's doing is it's incorporating the entire canopy of the tree. So the firebrands actually are burning vegetation that used to be attached to the tree, burning branches, twigs, bark flakes that are stripped off the tree, the pine cones frequently, as well as branches. So really what I'm asking here is, how do so many firebrands get from the fire to the house as a blizzard of firebrands? Well, if we look at this particular scene here, we see that the fire has completely engulfed the canopy of the trees. Now, in a tree that's on the order of 50, 60 feet tall, the flame, the velocity, if we want to call it flame wind, or how fast the flame is flowing, it's essentially like a fluid, a gas fluid, and it's flowing at a wind speed equivalent to about 80 miles an hour. And as we all know, an 80-mile-an-hour wind is quite capable of stripping the branches off the trees. Well, in this particular case, this wind is the flame. And so the flame has actually engulfed the twigs, the branches, the pine cones, and the bark on the trees, and it actually just strips it off with that wind speed. We're talking about a mass of material going from that tree being stripped off by the flames and going up into the convection column. Indeed, the wind is blowing, and so now it blows it ahead of that fire. It's heavier than air, obviously, and so now it begins to fall down. As it gets downwind, the updrafts reduce and it has to fall out. Well, but it's still burning. And the larger the material, the more likely it's going to continue to burn as it falls and then is deposited. So the closer you are to the fire, the higher the exposure is going to be. So if you're within a quarter of a mile, half a kilometer, the exposure can actually be a blizzard of firebrands. And you can have a fairly wide range of sizes of firebrands. So actually the size of the firebrand begins to diminish as you go away. So if you're standing there and you're having firebrands lofted on you, you will notice that the further away you get from the fire, the smaller the firebrands will be. Well, so how far away can firebrands be lofted and then still ignite on houses, for example, or in the wildland around the houses? Well, we really don't have much research to predict this, but we certainly have anecdotal evidence. So experience tells us that we easily can have firebrand ignitions a half a mile away from the fire. And frequently we have found that more than a mile away. And in fact, in this past summer of 2007, I was readily observing spot ignitions from fires caused by firebrands 1.5 to 2 miles away from that intense wildfire.